Hey everybody, thank you yet again for listening to another episode of Ordinary People Extraordinary Stories. We have a brand new subscriber by my man, Richie. Thank you very much, Richie. I appreciate your support. We also want to go ahead and thank Courtney as well as Tamsin and Aiden. Give you guys all a shout out for supporting the channel. If you guys are interested in also supporting the channel, feel free to click the link below in the description to our Patreon, where you will have access to additional episodes, extra episodes, and extra bits from the show that we don't put on our Spotify and our YouTube channels. Now, with that being said, I'm going to start talking, and you're going to start listening to the next episode. Here we go. Well, gobble gobble, everyone, and other Thanksgiving noises. I'm your host, Tristan, and welcome to another thankful episode of Ordinary People, Extraordinary Stories. This week I got a chance to interview my good friend, Zane Landin. See, Zane is a special person. Not only was he one of the first of the few people that reached out to my show for an episode to be on an episode, but his accomplishments, this young man has done, are varied and wonderful. I mean, just to name a few, he started a positivity and mental health magazine in college, to going to the White House for MTV's first ever mental health youth action forum as one of the speakers, to he's now currently working with National Geographic. And guys, he is only 25. Now, besides all those wonderful things, when you get to meet this guy, you're going to find that he's this very incredibly empathetic and charismatic person. I had such a wonderful time talking with him, and I really hope you enjoy this guy's episode. And it's off the episode, but we also got into Dead by Daylight, and it, like, again, if there's only so many reasons to love the guy, put one more in on top of it. With that being said, grab that turkey, get some cranberries, and let me truly give you thanks for listening to another episode of Ordinary People, Extraordinary Stories. Audio going, making sure I got sound settings here. Yeah, so how was my day? So I got off work, and I'm 30 and I just cut off my mom's cell phone plan. Okay, sorry, let me phrase it. I tried to get off my mom's cell phone plan. So it was just cheaper to do it with her. And I just pay her the bill, and that's what was happening. But I was also paying off my phone because the phone I had before was just damaged, and I dropped in like toilets, so I just essentially needed a new phone. This was like 2 years ago. I got one. I finally paid it off this weekend, and I spent like an hour and 30 at the store on the phone with my mom trying to unenroll me, or like we needed some stupid code, but the guy said I couldn't get it, and the people kept saying she had to get it, and it's like I'm trying to like describe how I like it was like I was trying to defuse a bomb with my mom,
Mhm.
but like there's also a rabid cat on her back while she's trying to defuse it. It was the most stressful phone call I've ever had. She was screaming.
Really?
She was just like,
Oh gosh.
I don't know what to do. She kept saying she was dehydrated while she was on the phone. I was like, Mom, go drink water, and she just wasn't. So yeah, that was mine. That's what my night was like. It's fun. It's fun stuff. Do anything for you? I mean, I don't know. Did you work today, or
I
what's up?
did, but since I worked in California right now remotely, I kind of got off at 2, which is kind of nice.
Man,
I could work no, I could work till 5, but right now so it's nice. The summer's super slow, so like it's not like a lot of stuff super jam-packed. So that's kind of nice. And then just kind of win the pool.
man, and you
Because
got the pull, man. See, and you're like,
that's
I didn't do nothing. I was just swimming and taking work off early. That's,
yeah.
hey, man. I'm peanut butter and jealous for sure, but like, enjoy it. Like, I mean,
Oh, it's gonna go away. Yeah, I know. When I go back to DC in September, that won't be a thing anymore.
I see. I don't even want to put that evil out in the universe. I just think like you just won't
No.
be able to maybe take off as much. I think you'll still be, you're gonna have Good time back in DC. All
Oh, I
right.
will. Just it won't be pool every day though. Like I'm liking so far.
Dude, there's just something about chlorine, man. Because I'm a California kid, and like it's all the nostalgia and the chemicals. And I was a dummy when I was a child. I would always like drown and swallow water, and yeah, it just was not. I think that's kind of what just explains my weirdness, is I just drink a lot of chlorinated
The
water.
chlorine.
Well, welcome everybody to another episode of Ordinary People Extraordinary Stories. I am your chlorinated host, Tristan, the host, and I have with me a very fun new guest. His name is Zane. Is it Landon? Or, okay, right the first time. Let's go. Zane Landon. He is a remarkable individual. Of course, you already know where I found him, on the same website I found all my other guests. How long have you been using Podmatch?
Oh, probably since like December, not too long.
For sure. No, I think it's for me now. It's becoming like at least a month or two, but just crazy. Like just it's pretty much almost exclusively where I get my guests now, and
Yeah.
I get the craziest people too. And I mean, you were one of the people who actually messaged me first.
Mm.
I'm always just kind of curious. I mean, was there something about the podcast that you just kind of like gravitated, or you kind of liked about my little description?
Well, we got matched for one, so I was first exposed to the match. I just like the idea of like telling stories of the regular everyday people that are making a difference. And I think that regular everyday people don't get enough credit for the work that they do. And I think some people get too much credit when there are real people doing work that really impacts people in communities. And I think that should be a little bit more celebrated.
Damn, Zane. Shit, you want to have my podcast? That was a way better description than anything I could say. That was beautiful. No, but that's exactly the case. And funny enough, you are not an ordinary person. You are a very accomplished individual, and I'm just so much. I mean, okay, well, first off, like my man here has a magazine called Positive Vibes. He has been at the Mental Health Youth Action Forum in Washington, D.C., where he literally met President Biden, Selena Gomez, Dr. Murthy. I don't know if I know that. And is Dr. Biden like his wife? Joe
Yes.
Biden? Okay, yeah. So, but the fact is that he went to the dang, like, he has a selfie with the president. Like, whatever you feel about Biden, like, it doesn't matter. Like, he got a selfie with a president. Like, it's just,
Yeah.
like, social credit score, just, it's going to the moon, dude.
Yeah.
And the
I
fact is,
appreciate
you know,
that.
can I tell him where you work? Is that okay? Or I don't want to.
Yeah, of course you can.
He
Yeah.
works for National Geographic. Like, guys, the dude is killing it, and you're only 25, right?
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, remarkable. I mean, again, you are not an ordinary person. You do have an extraordinary story. I mean, the fact that you've done so much at such a young age, and I mean, you like I told you, great trajectory. I no doubt in my mind you're gonna keep killing it, or at least I pray and I hope you're gonna keep killing it. But I am just kind of curious. So I mean, how did Zane start though? I mean, were you always or kind of always found this like success, or was like, I don't want to say life was easy, but did you ever find that you were maybe always equipped to take care of the problems you had in your life?
No, not really. Growing up, what's interesting is, you say, I have extraordinary story. I think everybody does, but my backstory is ordinary. I think a lot of people's are. I mean, many people come from a cherished life. I came from like lower middle class suburbs, and not like rich suburbs. Like this is kind of like urban suburbs, and
Regular old
so
suburbs.
yeah, I know there's like a mix of like some people look at the suburbs like the rich suburbs, and there's not the not rich suburbs, and so I kind of understood what it was like just to see my family struggle for money, and it was always hard to see, and I always felt compelled to help. And so like even university, I worked to help, and I applied for so many scholarships for that reason, because my parents helped with my tuition, but I wanted to give back to them for everything that they did. And I grew up with one sister. It's basically a nuclear family. Me and my mom, my dad, and my sister. That was us, and we had one cat. Now we have five. But
Yeah.
but yeah, so it's kind of an ordinary backstory. But no, I do not have all the tools equipped to deal with everything that I experienced. I just think that I've had to learn to kind of experience what life has thrown at me. And luckily, my mom taught me as much as she could about kind of always persevering through whatever difficulty you're going through,
Right.
always moving forward with kindness. Because in my opinion, it doesn't matter how you react. It doesn't matter how you come out of situations. Some people are going to thrive from them. Some people are not going to, and I think that's fine as long as you are always kind to people and yourself. I think it's the only thing that matters. And yeah, that's it.
I think it's also like, I don't know, at least as far as I've been kind to people, it really pays it forward. Like karma always gets you cash out. Granted, some people can take advantage of that kindness.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes people get really, like a better word, screwed over because of their kindness, but I mean it is, I will say it's something you should strive for. I agree, but I can also totally see how difficult it can be if again you've been like you someone's ruined the whole kindness identity from you. It's like I can't be kind because then I get taken advantage of, and now I have to again I go into survivor mode because again I was trying to be kind to people and they abuse that and the trust. And well, darkness aside, I was just kind of curious. I mean, like, so was I guess I'm were you like a straight A student? Were you like a troublemaker? Were you a gamer? Like, how was high school for you, or just school in general?
School's okay, and because part of my identity is being neurodiverse, and I have like a lot of attention issues growing up, and so school is pretty difficult. Like my mom definitely helped me a lot with figuring out school and everything, and that was always so difficult. And because school is not necessarily the most accessible for every learner, especially for neurodiverse learners, that it was difficult. And I was on a 504 plan to help with my attention issues and disabilities. So no, there was actually
You mind if I ask that about that? So when you say a neurodiverse, like would you mind elaborating on that for maybe people who don't know the term?
neurodiverse is something that is not neurotypical. And so neurotypical is kind of like just someone that doesn't have like a mental health condition or a learning disorder or attention issues. So anyone that again has a learning disorder, anyone that's on the spectrum that has autism, anyone that has like, yeah, those are basically it. Some people consider mental health part of it. I
Hmm.
do.
Okay.
But people who have like learning disorders like dyscalculia or dyslexia or attention issues, all that is neurodiverse. So it means it's not neurotypical, because neurotypical
Hmm.
would be you don't have that, because that's like the typical norm. Even though a lot of people do have it, it's just been deemed as typical.
Right.
So yeah, that's what that is. And
You didn't have that, so I guess how are you as far as like diverse compared to like the divergent? Like you said, attention issues. Did you have ADHD or what was your? I guess I'm sorry if this is too personal, but did you have diagnoses as a kid?
no, but they just said I had like they really said I just had extreme attention issues. And so I couldn't really, I had trouble like staying still in the classroom. I needed extra support. I had less homework given to me
Mm,
just to help me kind of get by. And even still, I felt really behind at times. And I really didn't feel intelligent. Even like in
that's
middle
always hard.
school. Yeah, even in middle school, that was in elementary school is when I had the 504, when I was getting support, direct support like that. But then when I was in middle school, I didn't really have that. I remember like just doing really terrible on a test, like really bad, like getting like 8 out of 50 correct.
Ooh.
um and I was doing okay. I was getting B's and C's, and afterward I was like, well, I felt bad because my mom was disappointed. And then I just thought, like, what if I actually took the time to study? It's a fairly weird phenomenon, I know, but I've actually like learned
Who studies?
I've actually met many people that have said that, where they're like, "Hey, what if I actually just took the time to just sit down and study?" And then you can have a complete turnaround because you're actually learning the material. So the next test, I almost got 100%, and then after that, I got really serious about school. Not like serious. I was thinking about college and middle school, because I know that some people are like geared to do that, but no,
Yeah.
I was just more serious about it. I enjoyed it more, even though it was still difficult. Then in high school, I basically got straight A's. I got one B, but I basically
Hey,
got
there you
straight A's
go.
basically got straight A's in high school, and it wasn't about me being super intelligent or anything. It was just about, you just put in the work and put in the time and effort, and you study, and then that's what helped. And of course, because of my attention issues, I feel like I had to put in double the work. So
Hmm.
it felt a lot more strenuous than I could see compared to some of my other peers. But that's just my observation, because I don't know how hard it was for them. They didn't say, and I don't know how they're feeling. So who
You're
knows?
just like, bruh, I just know the marathon I had to write just to study for this damn test. I mean,
Yeah, right.
did you
That's how it felt.
did you have medication at all, or did you just brute force it?
Brute force it. I
Man,
never had vacation for attention.
you,
So
oh my goodness, just applaud because I so I have an ADHD diagnosis, but I didn't get diagnosed until as an adult, and then
Yeah.
I also never had medication. So me as well, like school was, yeah, you really had to just kind of buckle down and be like, okay, I'm gonna have to read this thing now, even though my brain doesn't want to, and I'm distracted and like want to do literally anything else. But it was harder for us. But man, I think we grew way better because of it.
And that's actually like a very common thing that I've realized that so many people that are neurodiverse get diagnosed way later. And I think because schools just aren't equipped to support shit kids. I know that there's again 504 plans, there's IEPs, but those are separate programs, right? And I don't
Hmm.
think universally the classroom is ready to support all different types of learners. And I think that's unfortunate. I hope that changes soon. And that's why when you look at the school system and you look at someone who's neurodiverse, the blame is on them. It's never
Hmm.
on the school system or how the school system can be better accommodating. It's, well, you're just the bad student and you're the one that needs to work harder and needs to do better.
You're just
And
not
yeah,
applying
I'm sure you
yourself.
have, yeah, that's exactly it. And I feel like it's sad that the blame is put on you when you already are probably internalizing why you're struggling. And then that is another layer onto you. And it's like, well, there's just something completely wrong with you, right? And it kind of screws with your head on, how you fit in with school. And you also like, if you're applying to university, like you're going to definitely feel like out of place. It's like, am I really set for this kind of learning environment? And unfortunately, every classroom's different, but even university has its fair share of problems when it
Yeah.
comes to like universal learning.
Well, I mean, that's actually a good segue into it, though. So, okay, so you graduated high school, you
Yeah.
kicked ass and took names with A's and B's, and then because you're a California kid too, right?
Yeah.
You grew up in what was the? It was like I think it was like Cordana or Cordova, or
No, I went to school in Pomona and I lived near Chino.
okay, Chino. Sorry, yeah, I was a C word. Sacramento is where I grew up, but so what college did you end up going to, and then what was your like degree? I mean, did you have extracurriculars where you were kind of leaning toward, or?
I went to Cal Poly Pomona. Cal Poly Pomona, and that is really close to where I live.
Mm,
That was a nice luxury that it was around like 20 minutes from where I lived, and that is kind of the precise reason of why I decided to go there, and because it was inexpensive, which is why I know that unfortunately some people have student debt, and that's going to be bound to happen if you're going to be in that situation. But I know people that will take out a lot of student loans just to go to like a state school or to go to a private school. To me, it's not worth it. I think that it all depends on how you apply yourself and what you get involved in and who you connect with.
mm,
This school has, I don't think has anything to do with your success at all. I know some people might look at, oh well, I got to go to Harvard to work for Wall Street Journal. I'm sure there's very good connections at Harvard for some careers like that.
right.
I think that it's all about how you apply for yourself. And as you asked about extracurriculars, yeah, because my campus or alma mater was like a commuter school. Sometimes it was kind of hard to make friends and fit in. And I didn't live
Mm,
on campus, so I missed that aspect of university life. But I got involved in so many things. I think extracurricular activities were what kind of gave me meaning in university. Because if I was just going to classes and doing nothing else, I would become incredibly depressed. I probably would have lost purpose. I wouldn't say I would dropped out, no, but I wouldn't have been fulfilled as much as I have if I didn't have that community of the extracurriculars I was involved in. And I got involved in a lot of different things, like the different councils, student government. I had a different job every year for every different sections of the university. I was at one point,
and that's insane. Like that you juggled that much.
yeah, I was at one point president of the PR society, the communication honors society, and that kind of goes what you just asked. So my degree was in communication. I came in with a different major. Took a long time, like 4 years when you're supposed to graduate. But going into my fourth year, I learned that I was actually passionate about storytelling, communication, and writing, and it was time for me to make the switch because for the longest time, I would just swim through different majors and not really being able to navigate what my purpose was. And I had a
Right.
mentor who taught me about communications and how it's an actual career path. And you can actually do something with it. And every job, every organization needs communications folks. So there's never like a decline in communication jobs. I hope not. I don't think that
Fingers
ChatGPT or
crossed.
AI is going to take away writing because I still think there's some authentic writing that you need that I don't think AI is ever going to replace.
Until exactly, and until like we stop communicating human to human, we're always going to need that kind of communication, like
Yeah.
100% though. Granted, our job titles might change. We might have to take on a couple extra more hats to do the job that we want. And I'm only saying we because I too, I'm a college dropout, but my goal was the communication degree. And man,
Oh,
oh shoot, I just talking to so many people who've got that degree now. Like there are a lot of jobs for it, and I'm just like, damn, man, like, oof, because it, like you said, everyone's always going to need to communicate to somebody. Everyone's like, I
mhm.
mean, even this, you know.
I know
But
like a lot of people like challenge that and go, well, I hear and I find it pretty humorous where people ask like, well, communication is a useless major. Like we all know how to communicate. Yeah.
yeah,
You don't know how to
all
communicate well,
right.
though. I'm gonna be honest.
Give me
Like,
a 3 minute speech, bitch. Like, here you go. Like, what? But,
right.
yeah, sit down, nerd. Come on.
Not even like just a speech, because like there are many communicators that like actually don't really like public speaking, but they like the writing part. But like, yeah, not everyone can communicate well. And I think you have to be like really mindful of like the different platforms, messages, and audiences that you are going to be communicating to.
Exactly.
And it's very complicated. It's not as simple as I think some people make it. It's not a useless major. You can do actually a lot with it. And that I think that's what I think some people might view as useless. They'll be like, since it's so broad, it feels useless. That it doesn't feel
Mm-hmm.
like there's a focus. Because communication, what? That could be anything. Public speaking, writing, researching, it could be a lot. So I think some people might look at that as useless because it's not really a specific like focus. But I think that actually gives you somewhat an advantage because you're not pigeonholing yourself and you're opening yourself up to a lot more possibilities. And it's kind of it's up for you to decide. And I don't think you'll be held back by your major or anything like that because it's so broad. So I do appreciate that about it.
I mean, and to be quite frank, obviously, I think the degree opens some doors up for you because, I mean, let's even just get into the whole, can you like lead me up to the White House moment? Like, how did that even happen? And like, please tell me how I guess you became you've been on TV, you've been on the
Mhm.
news, would you just call yourself a mental health advocate, or are you like a way longer title? Because you probably have way more than just that.
Mhm. Well, when it comes to advocacy, I really consider myself like a mental health advocate, disability rights advocate. I really advocate for making sure that people feel comfortable and welcomed in the workplace. So I do a lot of DEIA work, which is diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. Just making sure that everyone from every walk of life is going to feel welcomed and supported in the workplace, where they can bring their entire selves to work, whatever that is. I really don't care. I mean, it can't obviously be inappropriate, but if it's your identity or your race or your gender, whatever it is. I mean, if you're a guy or you're certain politics, whatever it is, I'm always welcoming. And that's not to say for all DEI, because I've been around a lot of DEI advocates that don't do that. And I don't think they
Mm.
do it right. And it's about making sure that everyone feels welcome in the workplace as much as you can. And I try my best to always be inclusive and to be mindful of like everyone's point of views, and that not everyone's going to think the same. Everyone's going to think differently. And there's something called like creating a brave space where you hold each other accountable, but you also are like understanding where each other's coming from, and not one opinion is better or right than the other.
I like that, a brave space, because that's essentially what you're trying to do. Is like be brave enough to speak up, but also be brave enough to be like, hey, though we can work on this together. We can do the hard thing and be
Yeah.
better, rather than just be like, man, I don't like that Tiffany said da 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 da. Like that. Well, but so how did you essentially get to join that White House essentially mental health rally? I mean, like, were you chosen from a school? Did you sign up in a program? How did that
Yeah, I
happen?
mean, for mental health, I have experienced that since I was a kid. Since I was young, I always had like high levels of anger and anxiety and depression, those specifically, and it was definitely very present in how I kind of operated as a kid. I was really sensitive. I got really upset by things really easily, and luckily, my family knew about the mental health world and that therapy exists and that it's a resource that there should be no shame in seeking. And I know a lot of families don't agree with that. There are a lot of families that think there's something wrong with you if you're going to get mental health support and
Just
professional help.
weird. It's like, bro, it's 2023. Like everyone's getting therapy. Like, come on, man.
What I find funny is like I say that too, like it's 2023, but I'm like, I don't know if that means anything because like there's still some people that still have pretty rigid opinions about certain things and they're really not up with the times. And I get it. Like if you really don't believe in getting professional mental health care, then don't get it. But I think it's sad when you impede your kid because you don't think it's right for them when it might help them. I don't know. It's like, to me, it's like, just be open-minded. Maybe you don't believe in it, but maybe see if it can help your kid and really be open to all those possibilities.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, the same thing. The whole thing is just like, again, what if this is the one thing? This was the you're missing puzzle piece that would have had you maybe not have to work so hard at school.
Mhm.
Maybe not have to have it take so emotionally difficult when you mess up on a test. But
Mhm.
no, you're gonna say, "Hey, get the test right. I'm gonna beat your ass," and think that's gonna work because that's how you were raised. It's all about breaking the cycle, and I feel like that's why I said like it's 2023 because I feel like at least a lot of people, especially with COVID, broke the cycle or trying to at least. And realizing, like, oh
Oh yeah.
hey, I can't just brute force this anymore. I can't brute force a
Yeah.
job, mental health, that stuff. I mean, so because I want to timeline it though. When did you end up graduating college?
And I graduated recently, like of May of 2022. So last May
Okay,
I graduated. So pretty recently, and I started the job at National Geographic Society in November. And so it is pretty recent. That's my first entry level job, like actually postgraduate full-time role.
his first
Uh,
job. Like you gotta like I mean you gotta dab a little bit on that though. That's like bro. That's a little brag worthy. Like you can kind of drop in like you're drinking a little glass of champagne and be like, I'm working at National like
well, I don't shy away. I'm telling people that I don't believe, because I know some people go, well, you're pretty lucky. You're kind of lucky to be at that kind of job. I'm like, I'm not lucky. What are you talking about? Like I question when people say stuff like that because I don't think that luck had anything to do with it. I think it had
that
to do with, I'm not gonna say like I worked harder than others. I mean, yes, I have for some. But everyone works hard, but it's not sometimes about working hard. It's about talking to the right people. And I'm not gonna say I knew anyone at Nat Geo or National Geographic Society because I didn't. I didn't have anyone. I never came that I had a referral or anyone knew me. I just
wow.
had mentors that questioned me on how to ask the right questions. And so I
See,
had a I had a
there
mentor
it
who,
is.
yeah, I had a mentor I got matched up with through this organization. He's a C-suite level. And I knew that he challenged me. Like I knew that every time we talk, he would give me like the most challenging questions to think about as I was going through the job process. And I remember when I got the interview and I was talking to like almost the high up, and I emailed him. I asked like, can we please set up a session right now? Like I really need to talk to you because I have this interview like in 3 days and I have no idea what they're gonna ask, and you're gonna have a firm grasp of what they're gonna ask me. And so we went through like a whole hour session. He like was available the day after I emailed him. And
Oh
so
my goodness.
again, it's about having the right people in your network and making
What's
sure
his
that you're
name?
always.
Do you still talk to him?
I do, yeah. He works at Thriving. His name is Jay Werner.
Hey Werner,
He
shout out. Woo.
Yeah, he's amazing. He's a great mentor. He's a senior level communications person. And like I said, he challenges me in the right way. And I think that's good too. Like when you're looking for mentors, have like specific purposes for each mentor. Like
Mm,
I have different mentors for different things now. And what's interesting is like some of the mentors have started off as mentorships. Now they're like somewhat more friends, but like I can always still go to them for any professional questions I do have.
right.
And like there's one I have that like we'll talk about marketing and accessibility or disability. And with Jay, like he's going to talk to me about how you can actually advance yourself, and these are the questions you need to be asking and thinking about, so you appear smarter and you are thinking of strategy rather than just getting the job done. So there's a lot of things, and I have a mentor specifically for internal communications, which is actually my job title. So it's again not about working so much harder. It's also about just connecting with the right people that are going to help you move forward. And don't ever think of them like that, though. Don't ever think that I need to connect with this person so they can move me forward. No, no, no. More like connect with this person to actually connect with them. And you both simultaneously provide support for each other. And maybe you have conversations where like that didn't go anywhere. It will. It will go somewhere. Even if it doesn't feel like it now, you're gonna need that person's support one day. And when you have it, it changes everything.
I mean, when you were in that mentorship program, I mean, did you have days like that? You were like, bro, are we even doing anything? Like, is this even helpful?
Yeah, sometimes and I always enjoyed them, but like sometimes we would have conversations where I was like, I don't know if I'm getting a lot from this. I don't know if, and not from like that specific one, because I've been in several mentorship programs. And the ones that I've continued, obviously, like I got a lot from them because I wanted to continue the relationship. But I've had mentors where like will reach out here and there, but like it's not really a connection I fostered afterward as much because I didn't really
Mm,
gain much from it. But every mentor I do gain something from. But like the ones that continue the relationship, like I really, really like see the value in what they have to share, and they help me a lot. But yeah, no, there are sometimes meetings where I'm like, we didn't really talk about much. Like we kind of just talked about personal stuff, like not really work stuff. But to me, it's like that's part of it. Just kind of go with the flow. And if that's the case, then make sure your next session you set the intention of let's talk business this time around. Let's do a short personal talk, and then let's go straight into business. Then, if that's what you think. And like I said, don't be afraid to like be vocal about your opinion if that's the case. Like, hey, let's talk about something else this time. Or even just, even if it doesn't feel like an appropriate question, like I'm really having difficulty with this at work, and it's like drama, or it's like I don't know how to ask for accommodations, whatever it is. I mean,
yeah.
ask for whatever. They're there to support you. So I'm always a big advocate for like find a mentor. And it's not easy. Like, of course, it's hard to find a mentor because like a lot of mentors I have, I was able to connect with them through programs where I was matched with them,
Right.
but it's difficult when you have to like cat call. You have to
Basically, you're
call.
like, hey, sweetheart, you want to mentor me? You want to train me up and make me a better person? Woo! Yes.
Yeah, not cat call, but cold call. And you don't want to do that. But you kind of get in with that kind of mentality, like, hey, I would love to have a conversation with you. I think you have a great, amazing job title, and I would love to learn from you. It doesn't mean it's going
So
to turn into a mentorship. It might just be a conversation you have with someone, and again, that's value.
true, and it's true. And I mean, I just to kind of go back to what you were saying, though. I mean, like first off, everyone's saying communications is a dumb degree. I mean, again, literally, the mentor and that degree taught you. Again, everyone else is working harder. You're working smarter,
Hmm.
asking the right questions, and it makes sense. It's like, hey, ask or answer these questions to them because again it shows that you have foresight, that you're like, bro, you're thinking ahead, like, oh my god, this guy's way ahead of everybody else. Like, he's not a worker bee. He's not just like, just someone like, hey, you do this dumb mindless task. It's like, oh, this kid can be responsible and like he's got a brain, let's use it. And then
Yeah,
I
definitely.
I mean, I'll say this, if anything, I like after this episode, like, hook me up with that mentor stuff program because like, bro, man, I feel bad, like I'm kind of like a little older, but I mean, like, holy crap, could I use one? Absolutely. Oh my God, I'm tired of working base level stuff, or like I'm not a worker bee. I'm better than this.
Hmm. And like you said, there's nothing wrong with acknowledging that at all. And it's okay though, don't feel bad, because like there was, like 2 or 3 years ago, I didn't have a single mentor, and I kind of panicked a bit because I was like, I don't have any mentors, and when I graduate, how am I going to find a job? And so I ended up getting a lot of mentors because there's so many programs, so many. I think just sometimes people don't know where to look, or
Yeah.
they just aren't looking for it. They're not thinking, I need to find a mentor, but how do I do that? Well, find a mentorship program. There's quite a bit. There really is, and you just have to find them.
Well, so the program you went to, I have to ask, did you pay
Mhm.
for this service or did you have to pay for any sessions?
No, that was completely free. Almost all the mentorships I have had are all free. There was one that I consulted with recently who's a big communications person, and their mentorship was paid for, so I'm not interested because it was really expensive.
Mm,
No. Um, because that's to me, that's not mentorship. That's more of executive coaching, which I'm not interested in right now. I will be though, because I have another mentor
yeah,
who
yeah.
is an executive coach, and she's like, you definitely should get one in the future when you're ready to make the move from like entry level to mid, or like mid to like director level, whatever it is. Like
Making disgusting amounts of money.
not even something I ever thought of, not even something I thought about. But no, when it comes to that, I definitely would want to pay an executive coach. And that is like, that's different from a mentorship. I think mentorship is like providing value and providing support. Executive coach is like challenging you on the things that you need to do, and like kind of holding you accountable to what you need to do to get to that next level.
Exactly. Mentors more like open the door for me. Executive coach is like, bro, I've done the beginner course. Like, let's go do the advanced stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I gave me better, which I
Exactly.
mean, man, and that's got to be exciting, man. I mean, to even think about getting to that next level. Like, again, like, you ever think about just getting disgustingly rich? Like, not don't destroy the planet, but you could because you're that rich.
Uh,
You're like just
yeah.
drinking Mai Tais for everything, and you're just like, man, this is great. Like, I just there's it's wonderful.
I don't
I
think I would ever get disgustingly rich, but I wish. I know that like I feel like there's like I don't know. I feel like a lot of people kind of like hold this position that like they don't need a lot of money and they just want to be stable. I'm over that. I don't need to look a certain way. No, like if you're gonna ask me like would I like to be rich? Yeah. Why would I say no to that? Like why would I not want to be rich? As long as I do it the right way, and like you said, don't destroy the
Exactly.
planet or throw people under the bus, or do whatever that
Child slaves. Yeah, no, yeah,
any of
yeah,
that terrible
yeah.
stuff that people have done to get rich. If you do it the right way and you work hard and work smart and contribute to your community, and I think that's great. And again, in my opinion, if you have more money, you have more generosity to give, you have more love to give. You also, I think you're going to have a lot more stability in your life to give, because I think the more money you have, the more stable you are.
Exactly. And
Because
also
like if
like
I know some people want stability. I don't want stability. I want to be as stable as possible, more stable. What I mean is like some people go, I want to be stable. I want like a certain amount of money to be stable. No, 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 I don't. I don't want to be stable. I want to, how do I say it? It's like I want enough money where stability would not like crash from a car accident or something. So I think like if you're stable and you're at that place, one car crash or one medical bill or some disaster can bring you down so much.
but then that's not technically stable. Then you want to be to the point where you're comfortable and stable. Where, but are you also mentioning as far as like you want to get to the point where it's like again with stability almost kind of comes across as stagnation, where it's like you want to be able to make the amount of money where not only again you have the power to do things, but you also want to do the change. And again, you can make things happen instead of just being, hey, I'm making just enough to not get my car taken away, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. No, I want to be comfortable. And for people to me that say that they just want stability, I think that they need to think about it better because I don't think we really want just stability. I think we want comfort. I don't know many people that would just want stability. I think that they just say that.
I think honestly, I think people just want like the ability to make choices.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
that's it. They just want to be able to make it without being like, oh, I have to do these things because
Yeah.
rent. I have to do these things because I need to eat. It's like, again, not to get all political and like capitalism bad, but it just does kind of suck because again, it's just like this whole work thing where it's like, okay, now get to a point where you can work to live, or some people are lucky and they break the system and they get to live to work and they actually get to enjoy their lives and they got to like enjoy it. And again, it's like that's the goal, man. I mean, I would love to do this more free time or just like keep interviewing and meeting these ordinary people, because I want to, not as just a hobby, but get paid. That's I mean that's the goal, that's the dream, man.
Yeah. No, it's great.
I want to bring it back to the college though, because you had Positive Vibes magazine, which I don't
Yeah.
think we even really touched on that.
No.
How did that start and how did that kind of happen? And then eventually, like I mentioned, I want to get to the White House. How did that event happen? Like, how did you get there?
Yeah, well, it's good you're going to ask this first because I think the magazine helped me get there. I'll
Okay.
explain why. And so what in May of 20 sorry, in spring of 2020 when COVID first happened, I was still in school of course because I just graduated in 2022 and I was taking a copy editing class, copywriting. And the final project we had to create our own publication. And so I decided to create a digital platform on mental health storytelling because I was I saw there was like a golden opportunity for the mainstream media to talk about mental health in a positive light. And of course it didn't. Um, unfortunately, but I'm not really surprised at all.
I
That
mean,
was that was my
you
inspiration for
can't make
start.
you can't make money off happy feelings, bro. It's
No,
fear, dude. Fear is all the way, man.
I mean, I don't know. If there really was like a positive news network, I really do think people would tune in. I think they would.
I I think so as well, man. I'm sorry about that. But yeah, no, I think we can only hope, man. We
I
can
know.
hope because it'll start that way, and then Coca-Cola will buy it, and then it'll go right back to regular news. So just be like, yep, this entire scary epidemic is brought to you by McDonald's. Like, I'm loving it.
Yeah, I mean, John Krasinski tried to start the positive news during the pandemic or the happy news, and
Did he?
just unfortunately he decided to not continue it, and I thought that was a shame. Like he had something that I think people really needed, and I think if he kept going, it could have turned into something like tangible, like something on TV that it really could have been. profitable and really like just like a healing for some people that really needed some sort of positivity during the pandemic. And that's kind of the inspiration behind Positive Vibes, was about
It's your
telling,
magazine, like what you made
yeah,
for the class.
yep. And so I made it for the class, and then I was like, I'm gonna pursue it on my own with my friend's help, Michelle. And we actually, we started just like, social media and a website, and then we ended up just interviewing different people with just wide range of experiences with, diverse backgrounds, and just kind of like what you're doing. And a lot of different shows are just highlighting the human experience and what that looks like.
And I bet it's great. You probably
Because it's nasty, it's ugly, it's blessed, it's miracles, it's so many things. Like, it can be so many different things, and it's great to hear when someone feels empowered to like share the raw truth of what they've experienced,
heck
and do
yeah.
it in a way where they feel encouraged to um not feeling like an outsider in the room. Because I feel like sometimes in these places where vulnerability is not encouraged, there's always that person that is vulnerable though. And I hate that, like, they're the outlier in some of these spaces, that like they're the vulnerable one, they're the ones crying. I'm like, well, we should all be trying to be vulnerable as much as we can. I think so.
Amen.
I know some people
Amen.
can't be vulnerable, and I know for some people it is hard to be vulnerable. Like, it's not easy at all, and there's different
I mean,
levels.
that's why it's called being vulnerable. You're like, bro, you're opening up the
Course.
vital part where it's like, bro, like, please don't stab me here because I very much will die and cry a lot. Like,
Yeah. So you have to, like, of course, open it slowly.
exact. There you
That's
go.
why
That's the
that's why I say,
secret.
like, when it comes to being vulnerable, it's like, I get that some people want, there to be more vulnerability and more openness. You just have to be patient with people, especially with what they've gone through. Maybe they have been vulnerable. And just like you said at the beginning, they were vulnerable and kind and,
Took
taken
advantage
advantage
of
of. And
that.
that,
Give me that.
yeah, I feel like I have been kind of taken advantage of for my kindness many times. And it's an unfortunate thing, but that's just kind of how it is. Um, but it's like made me more aware of who I need to associate myself with, and who I need to be around, and who I think I should be around. It's given me more awareness of what people's intentions are. And that is why what I find interesting is, like, when some people do mention they're a nice person, I see nothing wrong with that. Because I know some people will comment or like give them backlash and say, well, if you're such a nice person, you don't have to mention it. Actually, I find that completely untrue at all.
Mm,
I think if you I don't like I know some people go, oh, you don't need to mention if you're nice. Just be nice. You don't need to mention it. No, you do. You need to mention it. Because if someone's going to take advantage of you, you need to remind them of how nice you've been. You need to remind them of how
mm,
much of a kind person you've been and what they're doing. Or you could just ignore them and move on. But to me, it's like, I don't think there's anything wrong with reminding people that I'm a good person. I don't deserve this. I've never treated anyone like that. And why should you treat me like that? So I disagree. I think that, you need to remind people of sometimes how kind you are if it gets to
that's
that
interesting.
point where, you know,
It's like fighting for yourself. It's like again, it's like taking ownership. It's like, hey, no, like I don't deserve this. Like yeah, like you said, it's that it goes I guess back to mental health and more just like that kind of self-care. It's just
mhm,
like, okay, am I doing well? Am I not doing well? But again, that whole like, okay, well, whether I'm doing well or not, I deserve these things. I
mhm,
deserve, especially if I am a good person. You're right, exactly. If you're an asshole and you say you're an asshole, well, all right, that's fine. But I mean, but if you're legitimately being a good person, it actually is kind of nice to acknowledge it out loud. Be like, I am. Yeah. Screw
mhm,
that guy. That guy sucks.
yeah.
I'm awesome. Like, it. I'm sorry. And I will say, you speak very beautifully, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
Because I'm like, he listening to you, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, dude, get you behind a podium, get you as a politician. I'm like, heck yeah, dude. Let's get schools more money. Let's make stuff more inclusive. Let's make this stuff happen. Though you're very passionate, and that's again,
Oh,
that's more of a reason why I was like,
yeah.
dude, we gotta do this cast.
Thank you. Yeah, and I do love public speaking, and I actually like dabbled into creative writing, because I'm gonna veer off a little bit here.
Okay.
But going into communication was different because there's a lot of writing involved. And growing up, I hated writing, mostly because it was just difficult. Trying to connect the dots and trying to create sentences that flowed well, I couldn't do. Like, in middle school, I was so terrible at writing.
Mm.
My mom was actually like so concerned. She's like, I'm so concerned that you're not gonna be able to write when you when you graduate middle school and high school, and like that's concerning because you need to know how to write. Eventually it just clicked. And I think what happened was, eventually I got it where I was okay at it. I practiced it. And then my senior year of high school, I dabbled into poetry. which was a game changer,
Mm,
mostly because with poetry, it was kind of like I could write however the heck I wanted. Like kind of like what you said, like taking agency and power back into something that you want to do instead of like,
mm.
you have to write this way. This is the way you have to write in high school, the Jane Schaefer method, all that stuff. And so I
And that's the
discovered
point of
poetry.
poetry. Yeah, I mean
Yeah, and then when I
that's
discovered
the
poetry, I could do whatever I want. I could compare whatever I wanted. And so things made sense. And then actually when I looked at it, I was like, hey, actually, this doesn't make sense. But at least I embraced it and I can actually think of a better way now instead of it being it needs to be the way it's supposed to be. So that helped me a lot. And I wrote every single day for like a year and like in a
incredible.
journal. Even when I heard someone say a word that I really liked, I wrote it down because I was like, and it wasn't even like the meaning of the word. I was like, this word just sounds nice.
Do you
And
remember the
like since
word?
I was interested in like how some words sounded. And that's kind of poetry. It is because like poetry is not just the words, it's like how the words sound together. And so
Poetry is
that
just
was great.
art. It's a word art, man. It's it can be again like an
Mhm.
idea, it can be a stanza. It do you remember the word that you were just gigging about, that you were just really pumped for? Do you remember that word at all?
Not the single word because I definitely wrote down like a couple. Um, but or not a couple, I wrote down a lot, but like even like the term like lingerie, I was like, that sounds
Lingerie.
so pretty. I don't know how the heck I'm gonna use that
Lingerie.
in a poem, but maybe it's kind of like worth looking into other words in the English language that have that sound or have like a French background or origination. See what other sound, whatever words sound really pretty. Maybe I can find a word that actually applies more to what I'm writing than that. But
And see, look
yeah.
at you go. It's that and that's where it gets difficult because when you say neurodivergent, it's like, okay, well, here's the standard. Here's the quote unquote normal.
Yeah.
And as we're kind of discussing, is there really a divergent when everyone maybe has some form of, again, I don't want to say learning disability, but I mean, like they learn differently, they think differently. Like you show them a puzzle and they know what to do with it, blah, blah, blah. But then again, you give a pen and paper to a kid and he's writing poetry, or it's even how your brain's working. Like, again,
Mhm.
you were fascinated by the word lingerie and you went down a rabbit hole where you're like, okay, now I want to know how it started, how it meant, that we in fresh history. Like, dude, that's a superpower to kind of go into something and just be like, okay, here's one thing. I'm just gonna rabbit hole right straight down into it though, and it's like it's unfortunate, or it's like, can we get to a point where it's like make it empowering while not like I'm trying. I want to word this carefully because this is a very hard question. Like the kind of topic about labels, like
Mhm.
I'm this, I have this, that, and this.
Mhm.
Sometimes at least some people have negative connotations with labels. It's like I don't want to be labeled like, oh hey, I I'm someone with like I have ADHD
Mhm.
versus I'm a person, or I'm a man, or I'm a human being with ADHD. It's like we're focusing so much on our labels that we're not just a person. We are artistic, we are autistic, we have ADHD, we are on the spectrum. I I guess what I'm saying is, how can we celebrate our differences, celebrate our labels while not making it so labely? I'm sorry. I'm trying to think. You
No,
get what I'm saying
it's
there?
I 100% do because I actually was on a podcast in New York and it was like one of my first in-person ones that was like with other folks on a panel, and that was the question was, do we focus too much on identities? And my response initially was yes, we do. Okay, I don't agree with that anymore. I think that there's nothing
What?
wrong with I think there's nothing wrong with focusing on identities as much as you want. Focus on as much as you want. Focus on changing the system as much as you want. Focus on developing that identity, whatever it is that you want and what you and how you want to serve your community, just do it. The problem is that I think we put too much value in identities and
Hmm.
that there is no value for my identities. Like depends on the situation, but like if I'm in a room
Okay.
and I'm the only like queer person, well then yes, there's definitely value in that. And it's not the identity alone, it's the experience I bring. It's who I am as a person, what I bring to the table as a queer person or a person who is queer, however you want to see it. I think that there's value in that. But being queer it's not inherently valuable. There's nothing valuable about being queer unless it's a certain situation you were in. If it's like you're the only perspective in this room that's queer, maybe that does have some value. It's like I do think differently a little bit from other people, but again, inherently no. I think we put so much focus and so much of our livelihood and our identities that we focus so much on that more than anything else, that like, if I ever get to a point where people are writing headlines about me and they put, oh, uh first queer Hispanic person, like I don't want that. I will never want that.
Exactly.
That will frustrate me, because I've done so much work that you do not dwindle me down to my identities. You learn about my identities in the article. You can mention my identities in the article because they're important. They're important. My identities are important though. Like I'm never gonna go and say they're unimportant, because they're important. And all of our identities, of course, make us up. Every experience we have makes us up, and that's what intersectionality is. That's the idea that every experience we have, every identity we have, it makes the dynamic different. And so that's why someone who may have similar background to me, if they're not queer and I am, we have very different experiences, even if we have very similar backgrounds. That's what intersectionality is, that
Mm.
the dynamics are just different. And so I just think that we need to stop focusing so much on putting so much value on labels, and about celebrating your individuality, but also recognize that your individuality makes up who you are, and those identities make that up too. And so it's about finding the balance of, I love my identities, but it's not the only thing that makes me who I am, if that
It
makes sense. It's very
no
complicated.
no it that it, and man, facts like that. This is a difficult conversation. I think the answer is it's just also complicated. Like it's not
Mm-hmm.
something you can just dial down because it's like a little bit of yes, a little bit of no, a little bit of
Yeah.
column A, a little bit of
Yeah.
column B. But was just thinking, I think it's a little both, but it's also
Right.
the answer you said before. I think it requires kindness
Mm-hmm.
that I maybe want to know. Like
Yeah.
I don't have to know completely, but just for enough where it's like I can value you as a person. I can again, whether you are a gay Hispanic human being though, you're still just again I can appreciate who you are. And if anything again, yeah, because of those very same things I just mentioned are also great and fun to celebrate because I don't have that experience. That's now it's like because I'm kind to you and I can appreciate you. It's like I appreciate because like dude, you're not me. You have a different walk of life. Like I said, we can do completely same things, completely different experiences. I mean, granted, of course, I don't want you to always have a bad one. If you are having a bad one, let's fix that because that's not right.
Right.
But I think that's the secret. You have to do a little both and
Yeah, absolutely.
just
That's why I
put that
say,
out
like,
there.
we focus on as much as identities as you want. I don't think you should put too much value in them. They are valuable though, but I think we're putting too much value in them, where it's the point where that's all we see people as, or you see headlines and that's all you see. The first thing you see is first blank blank. And I always say this, that if I ever become a famous writer, I don't want to be known as a queer Hispanic writer, right?
Hmm.
Because I don't want you to remember me for that. I don't want to be remembered as a queer writer. I want you to remember me as a powerful writer that really made you feel something when you read this.
Exactly.
I just
I'm
so
a
happen to be queer.
badass.
I just so happen to be queer, and you know that, but the writing is what impacted you more, not my queerness. Who cares about that? Really, I don't. I don't care about that. I don't. And I can say that. And like, I mean, like, I can say that where I am. I know some folks can't say that. And I'm very much mindful and cognizant of some people live in situations where they cannot be openly queer. They cannot talk about it. They have to think about it because their life could be in jeopardy. So, like, again, I recognize where I am. I recognize geographically where I live in California, where I don't necessarily have to worry about that. There's still some homophobic places here in California, but I'm
Mm.
not really there. And I feel, physically and even like mentally safe, as a queer person in, California. But again, I do recognize that, and I think that it all
That's gotta
goes
feel
down.
pretty nice to be able to just
It does.
enjoy that and be like, cool, I don't have to have that guard up that I'm gonna get a bag over my head or get beat up or lynched.
No, right. I'm very grateful to, be where I am. Even in DC, it's really open, and there's so many pride celebrations. But I wanted to go back to kind of what you said about um
Was it being kind or what specifically?
with the oh, I can't remember now. Oh no, yeah, that's that. Just being kind, and it's about, because like what you said was, you're not gonna. fully understand what someone else's experiences are, I think that's fine. I think that some people can't come to terms with that. Like, no, I got to fully understand what you go through. No, you don't, because you're never going to, and that's fine. Like, why are you trying? And also, like, I always try and like understand the other person. I'm always like very like understanding of them. And I'm like, you don't have to you don't have to burden yourself with trying to understand the world's pain. You don't. Like, it's
It's
not
not your
your job.
job.
It's your job to like
That's not the same
be
thing.
aware. I think it's your job to be aware and being understanding and being kind. It's not your job to take on the burden of others' pain. That's not your job. Same
Dude,
same with me. Like, everyone has pain. It's not my burden to take on your pain, but I can be there for you. I can show up for you, but I cannot
can't
take on your
carry it for
pain.
you.
I mean,
Exactly.
all those all
That's
those people you talk about, people pleasers and empaths, and we always look at them, we look, oh, that's kind of like the ideal. Like, I want to be an empath, I want to be a people pleaser, like I want to be and support other people. Well, what's the trend there? Like, people who are empaths, people who are people pleasers, it's not good. It's not helpful for them, because and ultimately they take on people's pain. They might be taken advantage of, and
it's
I think
called
ultimately a lot of them,
codependency. That's what
yeah, and I
that
think
is.
ultimately a lot of them also, I think, don't really serve themselves. And it's sad that like you forget you're a person in a way, because you're a people pleaser. You're not pleasing yourself though. It's like you've almost kind of way like I don't know,
Hmm.
like dehumanize yourself, where it's like, I'm gonna people please, but I'm not gonna people please myself. And it's like, well, you're a person too, right?
Yeah, you're literally, it's how is the car is supposed to run if you're not maintaining it. How the hell does that make sense? Oh, I will put everybody, we're not going to put gas in it though. Everyone else will get taken care of, but not this guy. And then it just, you're left with the bag. You're left with the
And
bag, it's
again,
empty, you got nothing. It's
if
just,
you want to support people in your life and you want to help others and you want to be generous, I think that's great. If you're not being generous to yourself, how can you really support them to the max? You know what I mean? It's like, I
exactly.
mean, you can help people, right? I mean, you could neglect yourself and you cannot practice self-care, and you could still support others, but you could probably be,
How long are you going to last, dude?
how long are you going to last? And like, you could support them even more if you were at, a higher mental performance, if you were giving yourself some support or some kindness, towards yourself,
It's codependency is it's a there's a book I think it's just called codependency or it's codependent no more, but that's the whole thing. It's just like when you become like I must solve other people's problems, when I take
Mhm.
all these unnecessary burdens, it it's funny. Some people don't even realize they're like I'm fine. I don't have a mental illness. I'm not going through this stuff. I'm fine. And then they realize, "Oh wow, I've been
Mm.
conditioned that I have to again, I got to do these things." And like realize that this anxiety of waking up every morning to have to do this thing for all these people, I don't have to do that.
It's a hard thing to wrap your head around, especially if you condition yourself to people please your whole life. It's a very hard thing to come out of.
I think it goes back to so it's okay. It's a little bit A, a little B, a little bit kindness. I also think it's about that's like you said, self care. It's like, do you want the help? Is
Mhm.
there a problem? Can you be strong enough to say, I am struggling, or this is where I'm weak. This is where I need help on. This is where I need a mentor. This is where I need something to open those doors for me.
Mhm.
And people are afraid, I guess, of that. Maybe I think they're afraid of admitting they need help. They're afraid of just admitting that, oh my gosh, I'm not. Again, it seems so silly. Like I'm so afraid and too scared to say that I'm not scared, or to say I'm scared. It's just like I don't know. People, man, freaking people.
It's a hard thing, and I can understand, because I think it can be scary, and I think there's many reasons why. Even when I was struggling at some point, I didn't want to mention it. And it wasn't because I felt there was weakness, but also like I just didn't want to. I felt like I was burdening other people, and I felt like I don't want people to see me this way. I don't want, like, yeah, or like if you're going through a lot of pain, and that's why people, even who have cancer or something, they may not ever mention it to their family, because they don't want them to see them differently. They don't want them to treat them differently. They don't want them to always walk on eggshells with them. It's like, I get it. Like, I can get it. But again, I wish people could do that one day, and they could, but I
Exactly.
understand why some people don't. There are many different reasons.
Which awesome. Glad you're validating them, but that's the thing is there's that but. It's like again, it requires both. You have to do a little this and a little that. You have to self-maintain. And even if that makes making hard decisions, granted, do that when you're ready, or do that
Right.
when it's so awful that's the only option is to change.
Yeah.
I we were talking about your magazine.
I know.
I mean, this is no, I think this is related because I mean, like, I
Oh
feel
yeah.
like you've had, and again, I think what I'm trying is I'm trying to figure out where did this wisdom come from? Where did this like you struggled, but I mean you adapted. There's literally this like path of adaptation where like again you're following your curiosity, your
Yeah.
desire to learn to do new things to constantly stay active though. It's benefit I mean I like to say it benefited you going to student council and doing all these things and going after this major and I mean I do want to know more about the magazine. Did you have a
Yeah. Yeah.
particular positive story that really touched you, or did
Yeah.
was there a one thing you can think about the magazine that really like gave you something that helped you get to the next step?
Yeah, I think that, like I said, when we first started, we were kind of writing blog posts and stuff, and then eventually went on to interviewing people. One of the first interviews I did was this woman named Amy White. She's a medium. And
Ooh, fun.
I didn't know what that was. I didn't. Even though I was around like different forms of spirituality growing up, we never had a singular religion,
Okay.
which I think was a bad and good thing. And I can explain if you have more questions on that. But
Oh, we can go down that path, but keep going.
yeah, what I will say is she's a medium, and I actually didn't know what that meant. Even when I even when like, because it was pitched by a PR firm, they pitched her to me.
Okay.
They said she's a medium, and I was like, what? She like writes blogs on Medium? Like, I was so
Exactly.
like clueless. I was like, what is? I don't know what a medium is. Like, you mean like a blogger?
Okay, I'm a large. What? So are we just saying sizes now? Like I'm a small. I'm an XL, 2X. Like
Yeah, I
it's
really had
okay.
no idea what that was. And then I looked it up and like medium, I was like, okay, what's a medium? And so it said a person that communicates with people that pass on. And I was like, oh,
The
whoa,
dead.
that's interesting. Like, because I do believe in the afterlife, and I know that people exist with that kind of power, but I didn't know it was called that. And so I thought that was interesting. And so I did the interview with her. It wasn't that, it wasn't necessarily just talking about mediumship and what she does. It was just the energies were there. The energies were really,
Like you could just feel that there was something about it though. Like it's
and we were on Zoom. We were on Zoom, and I'm like, that's when
mm.
you know a connection can be powerful, when you feel that energy through the technology, because technology is already gonna muffle things enough. But her and I just like, I was just in awe with everything she was saying. And like literally after the interview, I remember like just holding my head, like holding my head down, like on the table, like shaking, because I was like, that was weird. Not in a bad way. It was so weird in a good way, where it was like there was something so interesting about it. Kind of like it was like we knew each other. It was very strange. And I've had experiences like that with some folks I've met, but nothing like that for just again with like the
And
magazine
through
interview I was doing.
technology, dude,
And
like
that was like one of my first interviews. One of my first interviews too. That was like probably the fourth or fifth interview I did. I remember it was like the August of 2020. And it was such a good experience.
at the heart of COVID, baby. That was when it was heating up too, man.
I
That's
know.
awesome, dude.
Yeah, no, during the heart of COVID, yeah. And
I've had interviews like that on this cast, and it is I understand the feeling because
yeah,
it fuels you, and it's not supposed to. It's not the real flesh and blood like you can heal or feel my presence thing. It's like that, like or you just met them for the first time and you felt like you've known them for years.
yeah.
It's an excellent feeling.
Yeah, we haven't like stayed connected. And I think that's okay. I think some people like, there are many interviews I've done where I was like, we connected so well. Like, I want to be friends in real life. But you know what? It just didn't work out. And that's fine, because like we still have that good relationship where it was like we did this amazing interview, we had this great experience, and that's it. And sometimes that's it. Sometimes you meet someone for the first time and you have such a great experience. And sometimes that's all you needed. Maybe it doesn't have to blossom into a friendship. If it does, I think, hey, that's amazing. But I think sometimes it's like, some experiences are one off, and I think that that's fine.
That's a hard lesson for me to heard.
And so, I did a follow-up interview with her like I think a year or two ago, and it was again
Mm,
just just amazing to do another interview and just hear. This was more about her mediumship and just learning more about it. I have never done a
okay.
session but I might.
I,
I told her a long time ago I might, but I still haven't done it yet. But we'll see.
I mean, you're talking
I'm very
about it
open to
now.
everything.
If anything, this might be the little opportunity. You just text her, be like, "Hey, how you doing? I was just thinking about you. I had a little ghost say hi to me or something. You know, just
I might. Yeah, and I think that it's interesting when people like come into our minds and our brains, and sometimes it's like we think of those people or we mention them, and we're like, huh, maybe I really need to talk to them right now. And sometimes it's even interesting where like they were thinking of you, but they didn't reach out, but you reached out, and you're like, we were both thinking of each other. Isn't that just really odd?
I love that, man. It's like it's and funny you even mention that because especially doing this cast, there are a lot of times I'll really connect with somebody and like again be like, "Oh, can't wait to do it again. Maybe we'll text. Maybe we'll be best friends. Maybe he's coming over to Thanksgiving." And it's I'll never talk to him again, and it's something I'm still learning, but it
It's
I
hard
think
though. It's hard because you
man,
want it to continue, but it's like you kind of have to come to terms with, maybe the interview was the connection. That was it.
yeah, no, yes, and at least you had that. That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes things like that happen, sometimes they don't. At least you had that, and I mean, I think that's also why I've been really like kind of obsessed or like I don't think that's the word, but I've been really felt driven to tell people what I like about them or
Mhm.
tell them here's a great memory I had about you, because I would hate to say that at their funeral when I wanted them to hear it in person. Like, hey, did you know how much that time when we were at the creek and we were just talking crap and we were listening to like My Chemical Romance again, whatever, just whatever fringe thought is. I want to tell people more of that because I want them to be like, hey, because I often I do think about that. I'm like, hey, do I have an impact? Do I have those memories or those thoughts where I come up in people's minds are like, I remember Tristan. He's crazy, man. It's to answer the question, I do. People tell me, but it always feels good about it. Like, yay.
Oh no, of course it feels good. And it feels really validating in what you're doing that, I want to keep doing this because it is making an impact. And, if it didn't, you question if you want to keep doing it. Um, and I
Damn
think
it,
that's okay to
Zane.
I think that's
These
okay to question, because I know some people go, do it because you enjoy it. Well, it's like I enjoy it, but like I also do want to have an impact though. Like what can I do to make an impact? I think it's okay to question that. And if you don't feel like you're making an impact and the work isn't as fulfilling, it's okay to do something else. Or your why is always changing. I think that some people forget that. I think some people go, "This is my why. This is my purpose." I'm like, "Well, your purpose can change tomorrow. Like it can change really fast and sporadically." So,
yeah.
I think when your purpose does change, I think, hey, go with it. Don't avoid it because your purpose is always changing. I think some people look at it and be like, "This is my singular purpose in life." I'm like, well, that's nice. Not everyone has that. And
Yeah.
your singular purpose might change in 10 years.
Exactly.
And I hope when it happens, you embrace the change that's going to happen.
Well, it made me realize that that's probably happened to you too, especially with like, did you think the magazine was gonna be like, this is my thing? This is what's gonna like really? Okay, my bad. I was like, all right.
No, not at all. I mean, well, when I first started, I was like, okay, I'm getting this groove. I'm getting some really cool interviews here. Yeah. So like I was like, I wanted to keep doing it, but no, I never thought I'd do anything like that before. And it was just so funny, like just an opportunity that came from like
School project. Homework. It came up from homework, dude.
it
It's like,
was.
okay, now we know the magazine.
Mhm.
How do we get to the White House, man? Because,
Yeah.
bruh, like, that's, dude, I feel like I'm talking to royalty for a second.
I will have to share. There's like another aspect to that because I will share that it was in fall of 2018. I had a really hard time. I was, having suicidal thoughts. I was engaging in self-harm. I took the
We were
semester off.
talking about that, yeah.
Yeah, in our previous conversation. And I took the semester off because, I was definitely struggling the worst I ever had. And I already knew about mental health. I already experienced it. This was another level. And so, sometimes you think you're doing well and you think you're doing better, but just be cautious of what life can throw you and the curveballs. Because I didn't react to them well at all. And
You
so
mind
I
if I ask, like, what those curveballs were? Like, what maybe
oh my
happened
gosh,
to
I just
those
feel like
things?
yeah, sorry. I feel like I had no purpose. Again, switching my major so much. I was with someone that I questioned and that people were not really open to it and were against it because of our age difference. And so it was my first relationship and I was like, ugh, I feel stuck again. Like I
Mm,
hate this process. I really hate it where it's like I've done so much work to come out and be queer. And now that I'm with the first person, another issue. Like I cannot get away
Can't
from it.
can't get a
And
break.
so yeah, it was so frustrating. So like we had to sneak around. When we're still together, like, and we actually 2 weeks ago was like our 5 years. So it worked out. And but I understand though, because he's way older than me, and I understand why people were concerned. I really do.
But did it help when you were dealing with it, when you're in the trenches of it, when it was just like, bro,
No, of course not. I In hindsight, I see it. I do. I really do see why people had that perspective. But and of course, in that present moment, it's like I don't I don't want that. And so I did what I had to do. And I lied a lot because I had to lie to my people in my life, and I usually don't do that. And so there was like a lot of distrust, but I just kind of had to do what I thought was best for me and end up working out. And eventually the people in my life did embrace him. So it all worked out. And I always just learned that, you kind of just have to have patience in some of these moments, especially when it comes to like coming out and being queer. It's like, I understand that you want to be accepted by your family, but I think you need to give them some time. That's the unfortunate thing. Okay, this is a different story. If you're being shunned or you're being kicked out, I'm not talking about that. I mean, because that to me is unacceptable. I am only talking about if it's like it's taking them a while to process. You don't necessarily feel super comfortable. You can't really mention it. Maybe one day they'll come around. And unfortunately, sometimes they don't. And if
mm,
that's the case, I hope you find some folks that do embrace that side of you. And if you want to cut ties with your family, do what you have to do. But I've come to terms with like certain people in my family I can't be open to. I'm fine with that. I really am. I really don't care because I can be out to the people I want to be. And they're giving me that validation and love that these people can't.
they give you what you need.
Doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that their love isn't strong or powerful. It's just not this love. Like I was saying, like you have mentors for different reasons. You have different family members that give you different types of love, and it's okay to
Mm.
have that. Like obviously you have your friendship love, your family love, your romantic love. It's like all these different people give you different types of love, and that's okay. And it's okay to seek those different types of love if you're not getting what you kind of want.
Well, you touched so many just great like answers and things on here. And I think again, just going back, we're going to talk about the whole different types of love and accepting that, but the weathering through the storm,
Hmm.
I think that's a huge understatement of a lesson and something I struggle with. And again, if I just can be transparent, and real, like I'm sorry if I keep bringing up the age thing.
No, it's okay.
I'm not I'm not jealous, but I'm in awe, dude, of what you accomplished.
Hmm.
And I'm sad. I wish I could have. I'm doing what I'm doing, and I can't do that. I definitely can't go down that path of like I wish I could have done more because it had to be this way. I had to weather my storm,
Right.
but it is the most difficult lesson, but probably the most important to learn is that
It's hard.
sometimes it just sucks. And like you said, sometimes you have to cut people off. Sometimes you have to just make some drastic turns.
Yeah.
I also think maybe kind of like what you sound like. I think it's maybe the idea of forgiveness though, or more just like forgiving being angry, forgiving holding on those feelings of like man or whatever, or just being like I'm moving on from this because eventually maybe those people can come around. And it's not necessarily like you're like is that like kind of what happens where you just accept like well my parents are at least that those people that don't accept who I really am won't, and that's okay. Like, is that really what you had to?
I think that mm, yeah, I think that you eventually no, I hope you can accept that because it's kind of just the reality. And so I hope you can come to terms with it, but if you can't, I hope you find some peace in your life because it's hard to hold on to that. But I get it though, because like, for some, like they want to be accepted, they want to be validated by their family. And I think it's such a hard thing when you can't have that. And I know how it feels, of course. I think a lot of queer people know how that feels.
Mm,
And so that's why I'm really grateful that it did work out. But I will say, yeah, if you want to forgive, that's up to you. I believe in the power of forgiveness, but for the exact reasons that you mentioned, that it's not really because I think a lot of people have a hard time with the notion of forgiveness because if they think that forgiving someone absolves them, it does not absolve them. It would never absolve them. That will never ever happen, and don't let it happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, I mean, gosh, I want like I know people that are just have the weirdest, most hurtful things to say about people who forgive. Like where someone said, this person committed a terrible crime on me, but I do forgive them. And like I know people that react and say they're just dumb. Like, why would they ever? I'm like, so you're actually saying you're upset that they can move forward in their life. You're upset that they can move forward in their life and not have to hold on to such anger and resentment for someone, that they can move forward and live their life. Why does that upset you so much? Like, I don't understand that. Like, if you want to be angry about what that person did to them, you can, but like, they forgave them. Does that mean that they're absolved? Of course not. That person's going to jail, and that's right. That's exactly what should happen. But I think forgiveness is about it happened. You can't do anything about it. Don't blame yourself.
And I'm letting go.
I think a lot of people blame themselves, and it's all about, like kind of like pull feel the anger and then forgive it and then kind of just let it go with like the wind.
Exactly.
That's how
Let it
I kind
go.
of feel. It's not that's such a simple process. That feels like such a simple process, but it's not. That can
But
take
it
like
kind of
16
is.
years.
I mean, the process is simple. The time frame.
The time frame definitely, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And of course, it's a lot of stuff you have to work through, especially like, and again, I'm never going to tell anyone if they should or that they should or should not forgive someone. That is totally up to them, especially when we talk about how different circumstances people have are. Like, like I've seen videos and documentaries about, families that have been murdered or like someone's daughter was taken from them. And I'm like, yeah, if you don't have it in you to forgive that person, you know what, power to you then, because maybe they don't deserve it. And that's not for me to decide. That's for you. Because they're the ones that took your daughter away or your son or whatever happened. So if you want to forgive them, um, that's up to you. And I don't think it's like, again, no clear answer of you should or you shouldn't. I just hope, throughout the whole thing, you can find some peace somehow, which I think is a very hard thing when you've lost someone like that, like your daughter or your son.
Or any just terrible crime. I mean, God, you can be like molested or like, I mean, get the shit kicked out of you. Yeah, it's. You were saying you're watching a video?
I was watching like a video of like this woman that like confronted her daughter's killer, and she's like screaming at the top of her lungs. And I was like, I can't watch this, because I watched it several times. I was like, why am I watching this? And so like, why I keep watching this? And like I think I was like, I think I liked it. I think I liked the video because I loved, not that I loved how angry she was, but I love that she did not hold back.
Yeah.
She was there to scream at the person and just let out her anger and her emotions. And I was like, I like that. Not that, of course, I like that she was angry, but again, that I like that she had the freedom to like express herself, and like nobody held her back, and nobody she guilted her, made her feel bad for being that angry or that sad. I'm like, yeah, I can never freaking imagine. I'm no parent, and if I were, I can't ever imagine something like that. So I think just let people how they should let people feel how they want to. Again, my rule is always, as long as they don't hurt someone else or hurt themselves. Like if I that's my thing. Like, if you're so sad that you're like starting to if self-harm, then no, I think that that is not good at all. And that is one thing I will come and say, I think you need help. Or if you start abusing someone else or you start being horrible to other people, I think that's when you're like, okay, that needs to stop. I understand you're in pain, but that's not okay.
Don't be putting that pain on other people. Don't be,
Right.
again, like, it's just, it. Well, I think this is a good segue into, like, so, I mean, it's amazing you were able to get out of that darkness
Mhm.
and kick ass in school and then eventually graduate, though. You're doing the magazine. You kind of had all this amazing stuff. You're conquering it. How did we get to the White House?
Yeah, so in the fall of 2018, when I went through, after that happened, I came back and I became a really strong mental health advocate. So I really wasn't necessarily an advocate. I just knew about it. I had the lived experience. I saw a psychologist growing up, but I was never really an advocate. And I think like when I experienced that, I really was confronted with a harsh reality. And then I kind of realized that this was a hard experience and I felt alone, but it's actually very normal. And I want to get involved more, connect with other people that have experienced this, but also like I want to do my part in paying it forward.
Heck
So that's
yeah.
why I became like a serious advocate. I joined so many organizations. I started organization at my university, stuff like that. then it again set me up to appreciating mental health and realizing that there's this gap in mental health storytelling, prompting me to start the magazine from that class. Then I became a stronger advocate because I interviewed so many folks and I gained something from every interview. That in November of 2021 was, when I discovered that there was this mental health youth action forum that was going to be at the White House.
How did you find it again?
I found it like on LinkedIn. So like since I
Okay.
was I was a member of Active Minds, which is this mental health organization, and because this mental health forum collaborated with so many like mental health nonprofits, I was of course going to see it because I follow so many mental health organizations. I was going to see it. Like I was
Right.
bound to. And so I saw it on LinkedIn and I was like, what the heck is this? I need to apply because this is like, I've never seen anything like this in my life.
The signs are literally just like you need to go. I mean, did you feel like you're like I need to go to this or like this is meant for me? Like did that?
So I never thought this was like meant for me, but I was like, I need to do this. I need to do this so bad because this is like the coolest thing I've ever seen. And so, no, I do not think it was meant for me because like I had trouble. I was like, should I apply? Should I not? Of course, the imposter syndrome kicks in. And you're like,
Hmm.
nah, don't apply, don't apply. Eventually, I was like, no, just hit the submit button, just do it. And so I filled out the application, I submitted it. And then, like a month later, no, in like January, I think, I found out, or February, I can't remember. I found out I was like a semifinalist and I found it in my spam folder, which I was like, please, people, please check your
Dude,
spam. Because like I could
bruh.
have easily missed it and I would have been really upset if I discovered it later.
It probably would have changed your whole trajectory. You probably wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that event.
No, 100% because 100, oh my gosh, 1,000 times percent. And yeah, so semifinalist, and then I submitted another application, and a month later I found out that I was in, and of course, it was this whole ethereal. It didn't feel real, you know. And when I got the email, I was like, no, there's no way. There's no way. It's just weird though, because it's like a regular email. But it had like, the most bizarre news, and I was so excited to accept. And I told my family, and they were, excited. They didn't really. I think they were in awe at first too, which is fine because it's a huge deal. And so, yeah, it happened, and
You
we.
ever I hate to interrupt. You ever see Willy
That was good.
Wonka in the Chocolate Factory?
Oh yeah, it's like one of my favorites.
It's your golden ticket, dude. Like literally, like
That
the
is, I feel like, oh my God, I feel like the way like reading that email would be like opening the golden ticket and just being like, oh my God, like shaking.
like I'm going, dude. It's
Yes, exactly. And then even
I got a golden ticket. I
yeah, and I know like the Charlie in the
go
Chocolate Factory one,
in
like
my eye.
they kind of make him like a really like angel boy. I don't know if I like that because he's like, we need the money more than the chocolate. I'm like, okay, okay, Charlie, let's
Yeah.
look at Willy Wonka. Willy Wonka, he was excited to go like the moment he got it. Like, I like the original so much better than the remake.
Oh, it's so much funnier too, and it's like crazy dark watching it as an adult. I know we're going on a side tangent, but like I was rewatching it again, and there was like this, like someone abducts this woman's husband, and they're like trying to like ransom off, and it's really
Oh
high
my gosh,
stakes. It's
I
ultra
know
serious. You know the scene exactly. You know the scene though, and like
exactly.
she's like I want my husband. What do they want? He's like they want your last case of Wonka bars, and she's like,
Let me think about it.
what do you think about it?
I
I
love
was like,
it.
what
I
the
love
fuck?
it. I do love it. I feel like Charlie and Chocolate Factory like tried to get that wow factor, like, oh, like the melting dolls, and it's like, well, it's just weird to be weird in my opinion. And I love Tim Burton as a director, but like
Same.
my just wasn't my favorite. It felt like it was just too out there. I appreciate it though; it's cool, but like nothing compares to the original. And I love the soundtrack in the original. I love the songs. I know like a lot of people actually share that they hate the songs. They hate when Grandpa Joe sings and when the mom sings. I'm like, no, that's like the best parts for me.
Cheer up, I will say, I think
That's the best song. I love that song so
I
much.
skipped it all the time. I was like, I don't give a fuck how much you love your kid, how much you're just single momming it right now. But and we'll get back to the White House after we talk about the chocolate house. I can we talk about how Grandpa Joe went from like not able to walk to like, hey, I'm suddenly feel good again. I'm ready
Yeah,
to dance and go to this factory. Like what? Like
that's pretty funny.
what an
Dance for
asshole.
chocolate, I guess. What I love is like that really shows how like how amazing this chocolate factory really is.
Yeah, that would make you well.
Like we don't really know how amazing it is. Like they had to build that world and they kind of show it through things like that. So very exciting. But so that's actually one of my favorite movies growing up. And I really do love watching it. And I also like that the original, like, it was so wholesome at the end, even though it was like kind of weird with. I always hated when he yelled at Charlie, but I get
With
why.
nothing good,
I
right?
know.
Exactly. It just was so.
Even Gene Wilder was said that he hated yelling at kids when he was in these roles. He
Oh
said that's one thing he
snap!
hated about acting was when he would have to yell at kids.
Because dude, he can bring the wrath of God. Like it. So, funny enough, I had a health teacher. Shout out to Mr. O'Toole. I think he might have passed. If you're still alive, what's up, dude? He was a health teacher who also taught driving ed, and he always would dress up as Willy Wonka because he looked like
Oh,
the
really?
guy.
Oh,
And
cool.
he'd always bring the candy bars for Halloween. He always show the movie, and it's just like when he yelled, he kind of yelled like Gene Wilder.
Really?
Just put
Wow.
the fear of God. If you were screwing around, you turned around real quick.
Oh my gosh, wow.
All right, chocolate house
Yeah.
done. Chocolate.
Oh,
Go
yeah,
for the
now that
white chocolate
we
house.
and
Thanks.
now that so I got in and then it was like a boot camp. So there was like 30 of us that were chosen across the country. We did like online boot camps about learning about mental health, learning about the White House, learning about MTV because MTV hosted it.
Wow.
It
Okay.
was at the White House, but MTV was like the planner. Um yeah. And so yeah, like we met tons of people from the White House, tons of people from MTV, tons of people from all the different mental health organizations that were partnered. And we just learned about what the forum was going to be because the forum had like different components. There was the one component which was like you pitch your ideas to media. So we were like split into groups and we kind of did like pitch competition.
Interesting.
This is a
Okay.
good idea. This is a good idea on how to incorporate storytelling in your platform. And so if it was like a podcast or if it was like a platform, like we pitched it to like Pinterest and Spotify and all these platforms. There was some big companies there that were like listening to us. And so that was part of it. That was what we kind of geared for. And then there was like the White House part. So the White House part was first Monday, Tuesday was like practice, and we had like a Pinterest dinner on Tuesday. Wednesday was, we actually went to the White House first in the morning.
Hmm.
And that was surreal. And then we came back and did the pitching part, which at that point it was like the high was there. Like the White House is the best part. I mean, there's nothing that can compare to that.
Like, bro,
And just
I'm
yeah,
here. Like, this is supposed to be like the end point for people. Like, all right, I met the
I know.
president. Like, you're Forrest Gump at this point. Like, you just, just.
Just haven't ran around the world yet, right?
Hey, that's coming up next year. Like,
Yeah,
it's.
maybe.
Yeah. You're like, I'm not
But
doing that. I'm not running.
but I was gonna say, it was yeah, it was such a great feeling of just walking through the White House, and also just that it exists and it's real, and that I think sometimes people they're like, it must be this magical place. It's so cool though. Like it's historic. There's billions and thousands of decisions and important decisions that have been made there, and like the amount of people that have been in there, it's just amazing. But you remember, it's like this is still a place. It still exists.
Yeah.
Like even when you're like near the president, it's like the president's still a person. We forget because they feel so big and they're so important. But you forget that the world is what it is for everyone else, and you forget that when you put things on such a pedestal sometimes. Not that it brought me down or anything, but it was just kind of like, hey, I'm here, I'm at this level.
Just probably into
Um,
perspective. You're just like, again, you're like,
yeah,
it's crazy, but it's also just like, oh my God, I'm in heaven. You're like, no, this is just a big old building, and this is just a
kind of.
very old dude, which I will ask, seeing him in person, did he look that old? Like I don't want, like, we're not talking crap about him, but like, did he look pretty old when you saw him in person?
He, I think he looked fine. I'm sure he was wearing makeup and stuff. But he looked fine. I think he looked pretty, decent for how old he is. He
Good
looked okay.
answer. That's a good answer.
Yeah, I
Joe,
mean,
Joe Biden, if you're listening, put your,
yeah.
I mean, come on, man. But
But
hey, he's like, I like that Zane guy.
I
He
like what you had to say at the beginning about like, who cares who the president is? Because like, ugh, man, like I feel like I got like some backlash from people that they're like, oh my gosh,
ah,
yes, I know, right? And I was like,
like get
people,
over it, diva. Come on.
that is to me, that's yes, that's such a diva thing. And like, who cares? Like, and not even him. Like, even when like Trump was in president and I like was a student, I was like, I want to apply for the White House internship. Like, I would love to intern at the White House. Like, come on now. People are like, you better not. Like, why would you do that? Trump's in office. I'm like, why do I care? Like, I don't care. This is about me. I want to
Yeah.
be in the freaking White House.
I
I
want
want
to
to do this. I don't care who.
forward my education, my
Yeah,
career. Why are you trying to clip my wings? Like, come on, stop it.
right. And it's just like, why are you like? It's really frustrating. That's kind of frustrating. And then, but like, I did get some backlash that, oh, it's Biden, and it wasn't like people that were conservative. It was like, some people were like really liberal that just didn't like him because he's too moderate or he's not liberal enough, whatever. But that was not, I didn't get a lot. I'm glad that like I got very few backlash. It was like a lot of people were like, that's amazing. I don't care who the president is. You actually met him and like was like 5 feet away from him.
Yeah, again, I'm not gonna take your thunder. I'm not gonna be like, well, I hate Joe Biden, and that picture's stupid. I'm like, that's a great accomplishment, and holy crap, like, because again, it's like that school thing. It's like, and then we met the president. It's like that doesn't just happen to a lot of people. Like some people,
No, and you can. I think you may like have that random chance that you stumble upon the president, maybe you see him, but to be exclusively invited to the White House, not to meet him, because I will share that he wasn't on the press release. That I don't think he was supposed to be there, but I think he made an effort to be there,
okay,
which
and
that's cool.
man,
That's cool.
that bad exactly. That's like, hey, take look out for the little guys. Look out for the mental health dudes. That's okay. I
Yeah, and this was like again the first ever youth mental health forum where like it's coming from the White House. They're addressing youth mental health from every angle, not something that we've seen before. So it was great. It was such a great experience. And again, I know you have a question. Like, meeting Selena Gomez was great. I'm really happy they chose someone
Oh
that
yeah, did
actually.
I mention he met Selena Gomez? Like, I mean, I'm not even that much of a Selena Gomez fan. Like, besides that, I like her cooking videos now, and she like looking. I'm married, but she look cute. Like,
Mhm.
good job, Selena. Keep doing you. But yeah, man, how like I mean, okay, we have two ways to go about. We can talk about if this event, this thing, kind of helped open the doors for other things, or we can talk about identity politics, which is always fun to talk about.
Oh,
We could even talk about both, but what would you
we can
prefer
talk
to
about both.
start?
Let's definitely start with what the doors has opened. Well, I will share first. The reason why we mentioned Selena Gomez was she's basically the keynote. She was like the celebrity guest, the keynote. That's basically what her role was. I got to meet her briefly. I didn't get to have like a conversation with her, unfortunately, but I met with her briefly. It was nice to see that her and I are basically the same height. No,
Ah,
she was wearing heels. No, she's probably like an inch shorter than me. But it was like,
hey,
interesting to see, like, oh, it's just weird to see you that like I have seen Wizards of Waverly Place. I've seen you on TV as a kid.
exactly.
And I was a kid, and I think her and I are like very similar ages because I think yeah, and so it
She's
was
got to be in her 30s, I think.
no,
Maybe.
I think no, you're
Let's
right. She might be or
let's
28,
Google it.
29, or 30. So I don't think we're the same age then. But but she just seemed like really down to earth, really sweet. Her mom was in attendance, and I could sense that Selena Gomez was nervous because I feel like, I think you get opportunities as an actor or as an actress. Like you get opportunities to go places, but I don't know how many they can say has like gone to the White House to give a speech about mental health and their experience. I think
Exactly.
that again, I sense she was nervous, which duh. Like if you're not nervous, then I don't know, like how can you not be nervous in something like that? Like if I so I just loved hearing her talk, and she just seemed like a really down to earth, nice person. And I also love that she'll like be inactive on social media because like she gets all this hate. And I'm like, be inactive on social media. Like I love that she doesn't pressure herself to stay on social media because she gets hate for her body. And at this point, it's trolls because like she looks great. And it's like,
That's why I'm not trying to be gross about it. Like, bruh, like, yeah, she gained some weight, but bruh, homie, low key thick. Or yeah, bruh, she looks great. Like, I don't
look,
understand the hate, man. Like,
there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, because I'm
yeah,
bigger, nothing wrong with thick, nothing wrong with curved at all.
some people like that. Yeah,
Oh, I think a lot of people. I think a lot of people do.
bruh, like thick with like five C's on the end, dude. Like, yeah, it's.
Yeah.
Shout out to my
So-
wife. I love you, baby. She thick too, in all the right places. I love you, honey. But she's gonna be mad when she listens to.
No, probably not.
Alright.
Yeah, so that was well after it though. So I've done like just a lot more work now and like applying for stuff and like applying for ambassadorships, youth boards. I've been on several youth boards since the forum, and I pitched myself to several different podcasts because after the forum I was like, I had something to share, and I want to share it more. So I just kind of advocated for myself to get on different podcasts, and I've spoken on, oh, I don't know, I think I've spoken on at least 80 at this point.
What was
Um,
the thing you wanted to share? Was it just kind of like your growth in mental health or like your journey through advocating?
oh God, yeah. I learned because of advocating, I learned so much about what other people do and what their coping mechanisms are and how mental health shows up in their life. Because again, we talk about the experience. My experience is gonna be very different from someone that has a different type of mental health condition, right? And so, I'm always being challenged to learn as much as I can about mental health. And there's so many ways to address mental health, if it's politically or policy, or if it's just through speaking or podcasting or writing a brief, whatever it is. Like there's so many ways to address it. And so it's opened up so many doors for sure.
Do you remember what you shared though? Like, did you share your personal story or just the
So
fact that
the
like the importance of sharing a story, period?
at the forum itself, I mean, like they asked 6 of us to speak, and I wasn't one of them. But that
Bitches.
was my goal. My goal is like I want to be on the news. Okay, I did it.
You
That was
did
on.
it.
But then again, putting myself out there more, I was able to speak on local news. But what was cool about that was that was a campaign when I was where I spoke on TV. That campaign was aired on over like 100 local stations.
Yeah.
So that was cool. I mean, it felt like national TV because like it was shared on so many local stations. That was the first time I was ever, I ever spoke on TV. And so I fulfilled that goal as well. So again, so many doors have opened just through confidence, understanding, and just more
And if you could just
awareness.
see him in his suit, he looks adorable. Like
Yeah, you
he,
saw that.
oh,
But
I'm stalking the Insta. I'm probably should have. Yeah, I which we'll plug your man, dude. I will say you grow a beard very well. Like you got that college professor beard. Like that. Damn. Okay. All right. I
That's
see
funny.
you.
The beard in the interview was that full beard. I don't have that anymore. I do not have the full beard. I shave my
I
neck now.
like this. You look young here. You looked like again a little
I look
college
older.
professor. It was adorable. I love it.
My God, that's I never that's funny. But I did, yeah, I think also like we didn't really get to talk about it, but I've lost a lot of weight. And I feel like when I had like a big chin and a double chin, like I would cover it. And so I grew out my beard
Mm,
because it could cover it. And the moment I lost a lot of weight and I noticed my face was thin, I was like, I'm gonna shave it off. And there was no double. And I was like, I'm gonna keep it that way.
heck yeah.
There's no need to use hair or clothes to hide my body anymore. You know what I mean?
That man, and that goes right to it though. Accept and change. Things are not, things change. Things aren't always constant though. Sometimes your happiness changes, your goals, the way you want to look changes though, and
Absolutely.
it's all good. It's all here. Excellent. Well, I was mentioning Instagram.
Mhm.
I and I feel like we're getting at least to the end of your story, which man, I gotta say seriously, thank you so much for just sharing your journey. And I'm serious. You have to know. If you don't know, we'll stop being that humble. Now you're just being ignorant. You're gonna you're gonna go far.
That's
You
funny.
you are very, very, very well spoken, and you have a caring heart. And I pray that like that can go somewhere where good change can happen, and that no one tries to use that or weaponize it. Because like, dude, you're gonna be fine. You're gonna be killing. And again, thank you for letting me just even be a part of that and ask you questions and just see you on that journey.
Oh
So
yeah,
thanks.
well again, well thank you so much for having me on. And I think now I remember like even just I was talking to my partner about things that I used to tolerate and just terrible things that people have done. I like that I have the confidence now to like, take care of myself, and it's not worth it. It's not worth, having to experience that just to have a friend, or whatever it is. Like, so
You're
yeah,
not here for
that's what I would say.
good time, not a long time. That's why,
Yeah.
man. Got no time for that.
And now it's kind of like I recognize what I want, what I need, and again, I'm not gonna do anything to hurt anyone else. But again, if someone crosses me or if they, treat me terribly, I have at this point I'm not I either I won't acknowledge them or I'm not afraid to call them out anymore. Mostly and like to remind people that you can say whatever you want. I'm not stupid. I know exactly what you're saying.
Mm,
And so, and I'm not gonna like tolerate that. That took a long time though, because I used to be very timid. And again, the people pleasing thing, I always wanted to people please. And honestly, to be honest, I don't
mm.
think being a people pleaser really helps anyone
It doesn't.
except for
It
the person, but like But again, if you're like such like a dependent people pleaser, they just want more and more and more, and you're never really going to satisfy them, are you?
And they're never going to grow. They're never going to change.
No.
You're thinking you're helping them. Like, oh, hey, I just need to give them this and that, and they won't. They'll get comfortable and stagnant, and you'll resent them for it. And it's technically your fault for doing it because you're the one who just
Yeah, you somewhat enable how they are. I'm not saying it's completely your fault at all, but you don't want to keep yourself in that like situation or that relationship then, because you kind of are enabling it in a way.
just gotta take a little, responsibility, accountability. I mean, granted, you don't crucify yourself. It's not all your problem, but at least take ownership for the parts that are yours.
Yeah, now you know what that looks like and what you can avoid in the future.
Right there you go. Like lesson learned. Well, I to wrap this around, I was gonna say, if any of the people wanted to contact you,
Hmm.
see maybe the news articles, or at least like see you on the news, like your little interview, which it's like not even your interview on the news. How can they see this, or how can they like contact you?
I mean, you have my name. You can find me on Instagram and LinkedIn. It's my name. And so I try to make myself as accessible as possible for people to find me. And so I'm willing to talk about anything. And it's like the first post on Instagram because I pinned it because it's like, one of my proudest accomplishments. But yeah,
I'm
you
gonna
can
heart
always
emoji. I'm
reach
gonna
out to
heart
me.
emoji it right now. Just that way you get that clout. Yeah,
But you can always
417. There
reach
you go.
out. You can always reach out about whatever you want. Communications, marketing, finding a job, mental health, advocacy, weight loss, fitness, whatever you want.
Can we reach out to you about the Barbie movie?
Oh no. If you want to share if you want to share your thoughts, you can. I didn't see it.
Have you not seen it?
I haven't
Do you have intention to see it?
no.
Do. It will change your mind. It is a fantastic movie after
Oh,
everything
is
we
it?
talked about. Holy shit. It
Oh,
was
really?
not meant for me, but they made it for me. It was great. And okay, that makes it sound like it's no, it's just it's it's a surpriser, man. It comes out swinging the other way and you're like, I'm really surprised about this. Okay, let's see what's happening.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
hilarious. I mean,
Okay.
just I was gonna say Oppenheimer, Barbie. That was a question on there, but
I saw that and I was like, I haven't seen either.
man, you're dude. You got it. Next, isn't don't you guys have like sorry, I dropped something.
It's okay.
Do you have a cheap movie nights on Tuesdays, like out in Cali, or at least where you're at?
No, but I don't
You
know.
should you should check. I will
I
say
will.
from what I know, most Tuesday nights, though it's like the $5, $7 movie night ticket. I don't want
Okay.
to pressure you. You decide if you want to go. I would just say like you take the hubby, take the boo, buy some tickets, get some popcorn. I will be very confused and I'll be disappointed if you didn't like it, but I also will be like, hey, I appreciate you doing it, but
Mm,
I'm pretty sure you're gonna watch it. Might message me back and say, okay, that was pretty good. Okay, it was actually really
okay.
that was really funny. I like that a lot.
That's interesting. Okay, cool.
Well, I don't know why the hell I brought that up. Dang it. The Barbie movie has been consuming my life. I hate it. I just all everything's turning pink now. It's like it's a virus.
That's funny.
I can't get away from it. I regardless, if you want to get a hold of him on the Instagram and bother him about that, or also tell him you should see the Barbie movie, it's Zane Landin, just ZaneLandin.
Hmm.
Zane Landin. It's I mean, okay, so we got to see your journey from childhood to the White House.
Hmm.
So how did you end up landing like Nat Geo? Like did that event get you in contact with some people to help you get contact with other people?
No, not at all. So the forum didn't necessarily help me find a job. Mostly helped me with the Nat Geo job was just having mentors that gave me the confidence to interview well, review my resumes for me. But luckily, I did enough work where my work spoke for itself, where I was able to get to an interview stage, and then I just kept moving forward with interviews. And because of the magazine, I've already done so many interviews. I already know what kind of critical questions to ask. And again, the mentors I had helped me prepare for those interviews. So again, but the forum gave me such a strong network. I had people reach out about it, not like how to apply because I don't know if they're going to do it again because they didn't do it this year.
Right.
But unfortunately, but I do have people reaching out every now and then that, I saw you went to this, or I saw you have research on this. And I'm like, "Oh, that's just interesting that you find my stuff." And so, um, yeah, it opened up many doors, but not with the job. They gave me
Hmm.
confidence though, and I spoke on like the forum during my interview. So, every little bit helps.
And it's just, again, it's just so exciting because I mean, it's like I might, I most definitely, maybe after the episode, let's like talk about mentor stuff. But
Yeah.
I was just thinking if I can get you, I think you're gonna be so damn famous or doing like again next level shit that I'm gonna be like, hey man, you want to come back for a part two episode to kind of see where you are? But I think again, you're gonna be trailblazing so dang high, man. Like you're gonna be that not just that Latin queer writer, but the better writer that happens to be Latin and queer.
I
It's not
know. Yeah.
gonna be able to contact you, but
No, 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 no. See, that's the thing. If that really ever happens, I know exactly how I got there. And that's through every platform I've spoken on, every person I've been come in contact with. So no, I will always come back.
and and the best part is I think everyone listening can see that too. It's like of course he got there. We heard his story, his extraordinary story. And I hope again we talked about a lot of things, a lot of hard topics, and
Mhm.
I think again taking that answer that sometimes it's both. And I think that may be maybe a more healthier dose to kind of move forward. It's like, hey, it's this but also this. This
Mhm.
is wrong, but I need to do something about it. Just I That's what I really hope people get from this episode is that they question more, but ask the right questions. And if they don't know those right questions, maybe reach out to the people who might know, or look for them, or talk to somebody who might know that,
Yeah.
and be about it. Oh, I'm getting preachy. Whatever. I just want
No,
to talk
it's
about
great.
Barbie again. I don't know. I there. I'm not gonna spoil nothing. I might spoil a little bit, but I'll do it off the cast. I don't want anyone else to hear it. I mean, I don't know if you know, but it looks like it's closing time. They turn off the bar lights. The shop's telling us the last call. I mean, would there be anything you'd like to kind of end on? Tell the audience about something though, or something that maybe I think I asked you if you can give any advice to your younger self, if you could tell your younger self something as far as like where they were gonna be compared to where they thought they were. I
Mm.
mean, I don't know. You got anything?
Couple of things. I think like let time do its thing. That things take time. Don't rush into things. Think about things. Appreciate what you have. Spend as much time with mom as possible.
Oh,
And
we
I would
didn't even
never
talk about
explain
that.
why. And I won't of course tell my younger self why. But no, so even I could just briefly mention my mom passed in 2021. But when I say that, there's never been a point where I don't think I didn't appreciate my mom. But like now that my mom has passed, it's like I wanted so much more. And there are things I wanted to do. Like I cook now. I started cooking in February. My mom was always the cook, and it's like she always talked about how she wanted someone to cook for her, and it's like I didn't know how, and now I do. So like there's so many things, and just like losing weight, going to the White House, interning at NASA, just so many things I've done that I know that
Oh,
she would be really excited to hear about. So she's just knowing her how much she was fascinated about the Revolutionary War and all that stuff. But that to me, that's all that stuff is gonna be a long conversation when I move on. And I know it will happen. I just do.
oh well.
I know that not everyone else believes in the afterlife, but I do, and that's what matters.
I and I do think spirituality is important. I think people need to get touched with that because I think there is something we can't necessarily explain. And I
Yeah,
mean that's the whole point of
so
faith.
many
It's
things.
like it's that belief in not knowing. But I say that just because I'll be praying and I know just dude, man, your mom is like got the biggest like just
I know.
grin on her face where she's like, dude, that's my kid. My kid did all those things. Like, dude, if I was your parent, I'd be the most just jazzed for you.
Oh, thank you.
And I don't know, maybe next Mother's Day, make her a meal. Make her a meal and be like, here you go, mom. This is for you.
That is so
I
sweet. 'Cause I didn't
right?
think about doing that when Mother's Day happened recently.
Well, hey, I do. I just that's for free. That's for you. There you go.
Yeah,
I
that's
give
sweet.
lots of gifts. It's man, that was And dude, you just like dropped so many bits. Like, that's right, you did intern for NASA. I saw NASA on there. I'm like, bro, like,
You remember that?
oh, we didn't even talk about that. But
I know there's so much we could talk about. Sorry.
no, please. I have this thing where I tell people like I thank them a gajillion times, but seriously, thank you for letting me experience you and me
Yeah.
asking hard questions and like getting to know a complete stranger and feeling like I've known them for a hot minute. So thank you.
Yeah, no, and always reach out,
Hey,
if you're
you
stay
know.
stay connected, whatever. Yeah,
Bruh,
please.
I'm sorry. I'm mad pushy. I'm gonna freaking make you check out the Barbie movie, man. I'm gonna at least like keep dropping gifts, man. I'm like, look how hot Ryan Gosling is, man. Do something about it. Come on.
Oh, that's funny.
Well, guys, I've been Barbie. This has been Oppenheimer, otherwise known as Zane Landin, and this has been another ordinary person with an extraordinary story. Go watch the Barbie movie. Have a good night, guys. All right. Thank you for listening to another episode of Ordinary People, Extraordinary Stories. If you're interested in helping the channel, feel free to click on the link below to get access to our Patreon, where we have exclusive episodes and clips not shown to the public. And of course, if you believe you yourself have an interesting story to tell, or know somebody who would be great for the show, feel free to email me back at OPESpodcast@gmail.com. That's OPES. That's the acronym for the show, Ordinary People, Extraordinary Stories, OPES, podcast@gmail.com. Thank you, everybody, and until next time.